Hello. I'm hoping you guys can hear me and you guys are doing amazing today. So, for a couple months, I've been telling everybody that I'm going to go ahead and go live and just start my book reading again. And it has taken me a little longer to get started than I anticipated. So, I figured, why not? Let's get started. Let's bring this back. Let's have some fun. I am getting ready to start promoting my new campaign. So I'm doing something a little different for everyone. So if you guys are not familiar, hello everyone, I'm Daisy Gomez. I'm an author, podcaster, and pretty much an all-around believer that we all need to have some fun, that we all need to live our best lives and truly be living our purpose. One of the things I'm doing this year, as many of you guys are probably aware, is I want to give away 1 million books. I know it sounds a little bit like, what are you doing? I want to give away 1 million ebooks of this Intern. One of the things that I want to do as much as possible is to truly share smiles with people, to truly help everyone. Just kind of get away. Let's be honest, my friends, the madness and crazy, the tension is through the roofs. And as an author, one of the things I'm always asking myself, what am I adding to this narrative? What can I do? How can I help? And the one thing I do is write words. And one thing I do is make stories. And the one thing I can give you in this season of chaos and something to get away. So for the purpose of doing this, why not introduce you to the book the best way I know how? I'm going to read it to you. So remember, I am not a professional narrator. So I'm an author trying to share some joy and kind of have some fun. So please be kind with me and kind of patience. Since I've been talking about trying to do this for a while, I figure, why not just go ahead and do it? I am all semi-dressed up for my podcast. I've been recording Inside the Minds of Authors live. I have an upcoming interview coming at 2, so I'm like, I got time in between. Let's do the thing. So here's what we're going to do. My goal is every week, this is my commitment to you guys to see if we can pull this off, is to read a chapter. Guess what? The book is free everywhere. You can pick it up on Amazon, you can pick it up on Google, you can pick it up Apple, Nooks, Barnes & Nobles, you name it. Go check it out. Even more exciting, today, May 17th, is Urban Fantasy Day. So you can pick up over 100 urban fantasy books everywhere from some amazing authors. Check out urbanfantasyaddicts.com so you can check that one too. So you can have a blast. So I'm going to start my book conversations with you guys and do a book reading. We're going to start with chapter 1. If you are watching live on YouTube or Facebook and you want to continue the conversation, my goal is every week to read your chapter. So make sure to subscribe so you get notices when I'm coming live. Hopefully we'll do Saturday mornings because I realized trying to do Saturday nights, it's not working for me. Don't even know why I'm pretending. I am not a night owl, so I'm always tired. So I figured, the early bird was, why not Saturday mornings? We used to do Saturday mornings chit chats. Let's do Saturday morning book readings. Probably a little earlier than, lunchtime. But if you're running around and doing lunchtime things, hey, pop it in. Let's pick up a book. So we're going to start with chapter 1. This Intern is book 1 in the Intern Diary series. And I'm going to introduce you to some of my favorite characters and kind of going from there. So if you enjoy some book reading, welcome aboard. Have messages, questions. I'll give you some insight with the books and kind of parts that I enjoy. But if you have questions and you just want to ask some stuff, put it in the chat. I'll be able to look at it. So kind of take some time and going from there. So here we go. P.S. Cheers, my friends. We're celebrating my new adventures with some coconut water. Going very tropical today. So let's get started. So chapter 1. Friday night, I was living the dream. Yeah, right. I had cleaned the same 3 tables at least 50 times in the last 3 hours at Abuelita's. Abuelita was small, okay, more like a hole-in-the-wall Tex-Mex restaurant in Texarkana, Texas. Of all the places I'd ever dreamed of living and had moved to, staying there was beyond me. To make things even more confusing, Texarkana had a twin city, Texarkana, Arkansas. I guess the founders were not very creative with the name selections, but who was I to judge? Compared to major cities, Texarkana was a tiny dot on the map. For the locals, it was the largest city within 60 miles in any direction. It was by accident that I found it. Located in the northeast tip of Texas, it was the middle of everything and near nowhere. If you've been to Texarkana, we're really not that small, but 8 years ago, it felt kind of tiny, but go from there. But it is a real town. For everybody who's wondering, yes, Texarkana is a real town and it is a twin city. So let me check that. It is urban fantasy, so there is actual real cities, just in case you're wondering. So let's go. I was sure my godmother would love this. I promised myself I would never follow in her footsteps and wandering like a nomad. Now here it was, in my 5th town in less than 6 months. The good news was that I had managed to stay here the longest. Well, a whole 3 months. I was probably brain dead. I moved to Texas in the middle of summer with temperatures hitting over 90 degrees and with over 90% humidity. I was surprised I hadn't melted. My curiosity in learning about everything the king of ragtime was now extinguished. I was sure I understood why Mr. Joplin had left. Why hadn't I just read Wikipedia? According to the calendar, fall was 6 days away and the weather was still suffocating. If you are in the Texarkana area, you know that this week has started to hit 90s. So you understand ice's suffering because it's about melting. So for all of you who are not summer people, come back in the fall. Maybe this Christmas because it's going to be hot. So let's see where she's at. Isis, are you listening to me? Oops. I had blanked out Abuelita's voice from the kitchen. Abuelita had named the place after herself. More accurately, she used her nickname. In her words, the only thing she was after her husband and her daughters had died was a grandmother. She embraced and became a grandmother to the world. Her place was open to everyone, and a wide diversity of people patronized the place. Abuelita was probably in her late 60s and tall, around 5'11" with a solid body. I was a couple of inches shorter, and it was odd to have a woman taller than me in this area. She was still strong and beautiful with her silver hair. The shiny silver hair was the only indication of her age. She had been blessed with genes that age in slow motion, like most Latinas. I'm sorry, Abuelita. I was distracted. I sucked the line, so no need to even try. With that, we haven't had a soul in hours. Not even our regulars come in. Starting getting the place ready for tomorrow. No need to waste time. Might as well close early. I was speechless. In the 3 months I've been working here, Abuelita had never closed early. Granted, it was 9 p.m., and we normally close at 11, so it wasn't that early. But without customers, the cleanup was done. Closing usually took us at least an hour. I was not planning to argue with Abuelita. She was a very eccentric woman. I was sure she and my godmother would have bonded instantly. I needed to call her. She was the only family I had. The dining area of Abuelita's had 3 tables, with 4 chairs each. 2 of the tables were by the large window at the front of the restaurant. The register was double as a bar with 6 stools at the dining side. I took a chair by the window with a stack of forks, knives, and spoons. I was not in any hurry. There were plenty of silverware wrapped napkins already since nobody had come in. Abuelita's faced the Highway 82 past Walmart and the other Mexican restaurant heading towards Notch. Normally, I saw the high school kids driving around. Tonight, even the high was a ghost town. A bit creepy for my taste. So the one thing about it that I have to confess, Abuelita is probably one of the few restaurants that is not real. It was based on a restaurant for anybody who was in town that I really, really enjoyed. But this location, as much as people want to know, it's not in town. We have plenty of Mexican restaurants I can send you to if you're curious about it. So let me know. Put it in the comments. I'm sure we can find you somewhere. But that's big disclaimer. 90% of the locations are real. Some of them had to be made up to fit the book setting. So here we go. It was probably a blessing it was empty because Angelito was missing. Angelito was Abuelita's grandson and the other staff member on weekends with me. The only thing angelic about that boy was his name. P.S. Since I'm giving you all the background stories of the book, this is the big joke with the hubby, is that I have an obsession with Angel, Angelito, Angela, all the A's, angelic names, since I keep naming my characters that. I really like the name. I did not think there was anything wrong until he pointed it out that I keep naming all my characters that. So now I'm in search of names. So if you have a name you really like that I should add to the books, put it in the comments. I'm looking for suggestions. And it can't start with the letter A because I just got in trouble. So make a note. Help me out. Okay, so let's continue. He went through more girls than most people went through underwear. In his mind, he was a ladies' man. And unfortunately for the ladies, he was hot. At 21, he was over 6 feet tall, weighed maybe 180 pounds, with a great complexion and incredible hazel eyes. The one great thing about Angelito was that he lived with his grandmother. He was a spoiled boy who adored his grandma. If Abuelita told him she needed him, he would change his plans for her. I could have passed for his older sister. Angelito and Abuelita were of Mexican descent, but looked European. I could have passed for anything, from Italian to even Middle Eastern. My parents died when I was a little, and my gypsy godmother wasn't sure of their nationalities. I could be anything, with my long black hair and mocha complexion that could place me anywhere in the world. Most of my life I've been described as exotic. I guess it was better than saying outcast. It didn't help that my parents had named me Isis. Isis Black. In the age of terrorists, I had the worst name on the planet. At times, I wondered what kind of parents I had who would trust their only daughter to a woman like my godmother. Don't get me wrong. My godmother was a beautiful woman with an incredible caring soul. She was also a little rebel with a complete disregard for authority. Maybe my subconscious was rebelling against my upbringing when I joined the military. I was sure my godmother would have been proud if I had joined a band or run away with a circus. Kind of did both by joining the 82nd Airborne Band. Oh, there it was again, the same weird Mustang. It was the 5th time that it had driven by tonight. I had to miss that greenish yellow car. It almost looked sick. Why would anyone buy a car like that? Instead of tinted window, the car had almost a mirror-like quality. Of course, I could hear his engine running from the inside of the restaurant. On 10 o'clock, just on cue, Bob showed up. Bob was a veteran. He was also homeless as far as I knew. He had served in the First Gulf War. We joked that we have served in the same sandpit, just decades apart. Bob was in his late 40s, with sandy blonde hair and deep green eyes. In his younger days, he was probably been very handsome. Now he rarely smiled, and most of the times he was paranoid. Bob was also the one person I call a friend. My war stories made sense to him. I went behind the bar to the big window between the dining area and the kitchen. Abuelita, Bob is here. May I take my break now? Of course, Isis. But it's still empty. Here's Bob's plate. At least I can call him Bob. Abuelita handed me a large plate of carnitas with rice and beans for Bob. According to Abuelita, Bob was a creature of habit. For the last 3 years, he had been coming in at exactly 10 o'clock. Bob ate the same pork meal every Friday night and said very little. Bob did odd jobs around the restaurant for Abuelitas. He had once stopped a few kids from robbing her. Ever since, Bob was the unofficial night guard of the place. He made sure Abuelita locked up in peace. In return, Abuelita made sure he had a hot meal each night. I took Bob his place and brought quesadillas for myself. Unlike Bob, I would change my mind about dinner at least 5 times before ordering. Luckily for me, Abuelita's quesadillas were the best in town. It was pretty hard to mess up tortillas and cheese. I love Abuelita's food since she has a special menu for non-meat eaters. Hi, Bob. Are you ready for dinner? Bob was looking around the place with concern. I followed his gaze, but couldn't see anything wrong. He took a seat on the picnic bench Abuelita had outside. After several long minutes, Bob joined me. Isis, any trouble tonight? Bob sounded worried. It's been a cemetery around here all day, I replied between mouthfuls of food. How could I be hungry? I hadn't done a single thing all day. Don't joke about those things. Death walks the night. Bob was intense at times, but tonight it was even more dramatic. Death walked the night? Was Bob drunk? Okay, according to Bob, he had quit drinking years ago, but that was just odd. Bob, it was just a figure of speech. Nobody came in all night, including Death. I was aiming for funny and clever. Bob didn't even blink. Isis, make sure you go directly home tonight. It's not right. Bob was staring at me with those piercing sea green eyes. I'm going to be hard to clear my busy schedule for you. I'll do it. I think he missed the sarcasm in my voice because he visibly relaxed and started eating his food. Oh yeah, Angelito didn't come in today. Bob arched an eyebrow at me. I swallowed quickly and proceeded to explain before he decided to go full stealth squad in search of Angelito. Nothing major. Angelita said he had a new girlfriend. He met her this week, I guess. Have you ever wondered where he finds all those girls? Texarkana has fewer than 100,000 people when you combine the Texas and Arkansas side. Most people are either related by blood or marriage. How's he not dead from messing with the wrong family? Whoa, that was the longest speech Bob had ever given all at once. Angelito's wealth life must really been puzzling Bob for him to say that much. That was nice. I I didn't point out how he had used death to describe Angelito's potential future, I did not need another lecture. According to him, he doesn't lie and he doesn't make any promises he can't keep. So nobody's ever mad at him. I'm 25 and I haven't met a 21-year-old boy who didn't lie about himself. I didn't have the best track record with men my age, so I probably was not a great judge of character. You sound a little jaded. Bob was very talkative today. I didn't think Bob was that good at reading people. Or maybe I just needed to work on not being so transparent. Thank you, Captain Obvious. I added a glare for good measures. Anytime, Grasshopper. Bob actually smiled at me. Maybe my dad was a little like Bob, focused on not taking himself too seriously. Bob was suffering from terrible spells of PTSD, so he couldn't hold down a job. PTSD was the new term the government was using to describe most returning vets were going through. Post-traumatic stress disorder. According to Bob, it was hard to take yourself too seriously when you were struggling. Bob finished his food and started to look around the place. At the same moment, the same pale Mustang dropped by. I was starting to ease on 82 after it, and Bob returned to face me. What's wrong? He had that worried tone again. Oh, nothing. Just been seeing that car driving around here tonight. I started to yawning. Slow nights were painful. At the end of the day, you ended up tired and with nothing to show for it. Anything suspicious about it? Now Bob was in full paranoid mode. Nothing really, just an odd color. Okay, we're closing early, so I need to hurry. I left the empty place before Bob could ask me more questions. I walked directly to the kitchen with the plates. The kitchen area was immaculate. Abuelita ran a tight ship, and tonight she was ready to go. I watched the plates and forks while Abuelita's finished putting pats away. Okay, Isis, you can take off. Abuelita didn't even turn around when she said it. I was ready for bed, but didn't want to sound too excited. Are you sure? I can help you lock up. I was really praying she would say no, but I would stay if she needed me. I'm good, child. Besides, Bob is doing his rounds. I'm sure I'll be okay. She smiled when she said it. Bob was very efficient. Thank you, Abuelita. Good night. I dried my hands and gave her a kiss on the cheek on my way out. Good night, Isis, Abuelita said as I ran out the door. Good night, Bob, I yelled at the night. There was no buildings near the little restaurant, so I knew sound would travel. My minivan was parked in the usual space, the spot farthest from the restaurant. Abuelita liked her paying customers to have front row parking. The minivan was old and beaten up, and it had once been midnight blue. Now it's just a jaded blue. My godmother had given it to me, and I had nicknamed it the Whale. I wasn't complaining. The Whale saved me on gas, and I packed my whole life into it. On top of that, it was paid for. I opened the door and was blasted by the heat that was still trapped inside. How can it be in the 80s in September? This night, I was ready to go home to my small apartment on Summerhill Road. It was 7 minutes drive using a service road next to Highway 30. And I was exhausted all the time. All right, my friends, we have finished chapter 1. So books, Des Intern's book 1 and the Des Intern series. So just to give you guys all a kind of idea of what to expect. The chapters are very fast and very quick to read. So it's a really fast read. I am debating, since we still have time, to actually go ahead and do chapter 2. So we can go ahead and do them, primarily because it's a 10-minute read, pretty simple. I'm looking at the time, making sure you guys are good. So if you guys are watching and joining, do you guys have any questions? I'm going to take a drink so I can make sure I can pump myself up for the next section. So primarily most chapters are usually about 15 minutes, so it's pretty fast. It's a pretty read. Really exciting. So this is urban fantasy taking place in Texarkana. And as you guys just met, you have met 3 of our main kind of characters. You met Abuelita, who's a really fun side character who loves people, her grandson, and everybody around. You also have met Bob, who has one of this very much interesting backstory that you actually don't get to the middle of the series. And you have met our main leading lady, Isis. And Isis is still trying to figure it out what she wants to do. So she's a musician. She's trying to find her way. So we're going to, if you guys are okay, because we actually have time, let's pick up chapter 2, and then we'll see where we're at. What do you guys think? especially because chapter 2 will kind of set the stage. So let's do chapter 2. If you guys are joining me right now, I am doing my live book reading. This is Readings by DC. It is Magic, Mayhem, and More, and I'm doing book 1. That's Intern on my Intern Diaries. And if you're joining me on Facebook or YouTube, make sure to subscribe, join the community. That way you're not missing a single chapter. So, you guys ready for chapter 2? All right, let's go. Did I mention that everything I owned fit in the whale? That included everything in my one-bedroom apartment. It wasn't in one of the fancy complexes in town, but $400 a month, I wasn't complaining. P.S. This was a while back, so even though things are extremely affordable in Texarkana still, very rarely that I think most apartment now are $400. So for everybody who's going, DC, where is that at? Back when I wrote the book, it's been a couple years, you could have found an apartment for $400. Right now, sorry, you might not, so bear with me. Remember, still over fantasy, so put some fantasy behind that. We're going to go over there. Compared to my last apartment in Washington Heights in New York, this was luxury. I own a small futon that doubled as my bed and sofa, a wicker table in the middle with my books and music sheets. The bedroom was actually my studio, where my sacks hung out. Most of the clothes were in plastic storage containers from Walmart. The bathroom was next to the bedroom. A small hallway with appliances made the kitchen area. P.S. I did live in an apartment in Texarkana that my kitchen really did look like an apartment, and a little hallway with appliances, so that's pretty accurate. So it happens. Many places are, so be aware. So don't hate. It was a good thing I didn't cook, because there was barely any room in the kitchen to walk around. I love cooking, but it's too much trouble to cook for just one person. It is. So if you only have to cook for yourself, trust me, it's a lot of trouble. If you enjoy cooking, continue. Most of my stuff had come from Walmart. I probably had an obsession with the supercenter. I might have a small obsession. Don't tell anybody. It's our secret. Don't worry about it. But you will hear a lot about it, so sorry. Or more accurately, I couldn't afford any other place. I spent way too much time wandering stores buying things I didn't need, like more books. P.S. You always need more books, so don't listen to ISIS. You need more books. The apartment had no curtains or even pictures on the wall. I never bothered with the stuff. I was never in one place long enough to settle. I had piles of books all over the apartment that were neat and organized. I just refused to buy bookshelves. Those things were hard to move. On the positive, everything was paid for and I had no debt. Keep things simple, and you need to move if you need to move in a hurry. There was a knock at the door. I was almost 11 and I had no friends. All the people I knew, I left abuelitas. Texarkana was a relatively safe city by my standards, and I wasn't too excited to get killed there. When it comes to crime rates, most people have a hard time looking at the big picture. For natives in Texarkana, was becoming too big and dangerous. They wanted to keep the small town feel. When people know your name at the restaurant you frequent, you live in a small town, no matter what the neighbors believe. With that in mind, I grabbed my bag and walked to the door. Who is it? I tried to make my voice sound mean and menacing. Instead, I sounded as if I swallowed a frog. Just my luck. I have a message from Brooklyn. Could we talk? A female voice said. The voice had a slight accent, maybe European. She sounded friendly, but the Brooklyn part did not make me feel better. I have left Brooklyn in a hurry. Besides, my godmother? Nobody from that life knew where I was. Isis? Can we talk in private? We can do it this way. It's up to you. How does she know my name? I slowly opened the door with the left hand, keeping my right on the bed. Peer through the crack, trying to look mean. I don't know if Isis can mean mug at this stage in her life, but she's trying. I heard stories that when death comes to you, your life flashes before your eyes. Well, that was a lie. My life didn't flash. Instead, everything froze. As I stared at the woman on my threshold, I knew I was seeing death. Don't get me wrong. I wasn't talking about someone who was there to kill me. I was actually staring at death herself, the Grim Reaper. Why death was wearing a very expensive designer suit and 4-inch heels was beyond me. For that matter, why was death beautiful with a courageous body and long, silky brown hair? Can I come in now, or do you just plan to stare at me? There was a mischievous in her voice, and I couldn't help but feel a bit sheepish. Sure, why not? If death was at my door, there was no point in hiding. Do you know who I am? She strolled into the apartment and did a quick scan. She was wearing a light jacket over her suit. I guess Death doesn't feel cold or heat because it was still too warm for all those layers in September. Death? The word came out harsh, even for me. That was all I was able to say. I was feeling nauseated. Not bad. May I? She pointed at the futon. I nodded. She slowly took a seat with a grace I had seen only in Miss America pageants. I had a couple of folding chairs by the wall, but I was too shocked to move. Are you here to kill me? I found the courage to ask. Death raised an eyebrow and analyzed me. Sorry, dear. I'm not in the killing business. I'm more in the delivery one. So no, I'm not here. I'm here because we have some business to attend to. I was totally lost. What did delivery business mean? And why did I have business with Death? Ma'am, I'm sorry, but I'm not following you. Nobody could accuse me of not being polite. I was feeling pretty brave. I had spoken a whole sentence to Death. Did you remember Brooklyn, March 9th? Was she serious? I was so dead. It was getting worse by the minute. Unfortunately, I can't forget it. There was no need to lie to this woman, or being, whatever she was. I had an ongoing countdown in my head starting on that day. It had been 6 months and 6 days exactly. Good. Tell me what happened. She leaned back and waited. I wasn't sure, but she was breathing. Excuse me? What? The horror on my face was probably showing because Death smiled very gently at me. Relax, dear. I want to hear your side of the story. So, start from the moment you got to the party and try not to leave anything out. Okay? The voice sounded soothing but firm. She wasn't leaving for her interpretation. She wanted the truth and she wanted it now. Took a deep breath and exhale. My friend Tamara invited me to a party at one of her friends. I was planning to leave the following week. I wasn't adjusting and couldn't find work. I was planning a road trip. Tamara was one of the few friends I had made up there, and she actually wanted me to stay. I'd been out of the military for almost 2 months at the time, and I was already miserable. I made it to the party around 10, and the place was packed. It was on the 7th floor in an apartment building in Brooklyn. The residents had moved out, but hadn't turned in the keys. The music was loud, and you couldn't walk without brushing against people. Couples were making out everywhere. The smell of weed was thick in the air, and everyone looked drunk. I found myself getting sweaty hands, my heart rate increased, and I knew I was having a panic attack. I was feeling claustrophobic, and my senses were in overdrive. I lost Tamara as soon as we walked in. I tried to head to the door, but people kept grabbing and pulling on my clothes. I even made my way to the back and found a fire escape. I just wanted to get some fresh air before I broke down in the middle of the crowd. I swear I never meant to hurt anyone. I've never told that story to anyone. My palms were sweating again, and tears were rolling down my cheeks. What happened next? Death was still. It was overwhelming. I wasn't sure why she asked, but the look in her face, she already knew the answer. The window was open, so I climbed out. Unfortunately, when I was trying to get up, I accidentally knocked someone down. It all happened so fast. At that time, I had no idea what I pushed. I tried to catch it. It was followed by a loud scream, and by the time I made it to the ledge, there was a body on the ground. Please believe me. It was an accident. I went back inside and rushed back down. I wasn't sure how safe the fire escape was. The apartment was even more crowded. It took me longer than I expected to get down. When I got to the street, the body was gone. I was nervous. I knew I was rambling. I couldn't stop talking or crying. I was trying to calm down while Death continued to analyze me. Is he dead? Unfortunately, dear, yes he is. No human can survive a fall like that. And he's the reason I'm here. Death shifted her body. I had the full weight of her stare on me. The young man you killed was my intern. Your what? I was grateful I was standing because I was getting ready to bolt for the door. Relax, Isis. And please sit down before you faint. The statement was more of an order than a suggestion. Her demeanor was strong, and I felt as if it were in Death's house instead of mine. I pulled up one of the folding chairs and dropped myself down. This was so bad. I was hurting my head. So, are you here to take your revenge for your intern? This was all I was able to say softly. I told you already, I'm not here to kill you. Death was getting annoyed, I could tell, but I wasn't sure what to say. There are things worse than death. I've heard stories of pure damnation. It is very true, dear. Hopefully my proposal won't sound that bad. Death took a deep breath, not because she needed it, but more for emphasis. With the loss of my intern, I'm in need of a new one. Since you killed him, the job is yours. Say what? What job? Wait. What are you talking about? Death actually smiled at me. She probably was thinking I was mentally challenged. The rules are simple, dear. You kill my intern, and in terms, you take his place. That's it. If I find you acceptable candidate, you pass. I was starting to feel like Tim Allen in the Santa Claus. Granted, I was sure Tim had a much better deal than mine. Rules. Who makes those rules? This is nuts. I was yelling and pacing in front of Death. I wasn't sure when I got up from my chair, but this was madness. You can call it cosmic law, an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, or just karma. Whatever you prefer. Unfortunately, that's the rule. I was getting ready to interrupt her when Death raised her index finger and I stopped moving, even breathing. I do believe in free will, dear. I don't want people working for me who don't want the job. But before you decide, I want you to meet a few friends of mine. I had an incredulous look on my face. Death smiled gently at me, and I wasn't sure whether I was supposed to say anything. Death continued. You might actually enjoy the fringe benefits of the job even more. You might find purpose again. With all due respect, Death, please don't act like you know me. You know nothing about me and what I want or need. I hated when my elders tried to put me in their boxes. I didn't care that it was Death making assumptions. She just kept giving me that infuriating smile. Whatever you say, Isis, please have a seat. This voice was even gentler, but it left no room for argument. I felt myself drawn to the chair. You will meet with my friends tonight, and you will have 3 days to decide whether you will take the job. The boys will fill you in on all the details. What makes you sure I'll take the job? Why was I arguing with Death? Oh yeah, it was a horrible streak in me that hated being controlled. Death got up from the futon and smoothed her suit. She looked around my apartment, taking inventories. I felt offended. Things have been arranged, dear. Trust me. It will be your choice if you come work for me. But I'm sure it's a much better offer than what you have right now. Death walked around the table and stood next to my chair. She smiled down at me and then went over and kissed my forehead. Before I could complain, I felt my body shutting down. I was slowly fading. In a blink of an eye, I was blacked out. So my dear friends, we have made it to chapter 2. As I told you, super fast read, super exciting. You now have met Death. You have met Isis, you met Abuelita and Bob, who are some of the main characters on my series, Death's Intern. So our goal for this year is to give away 1 million books. It is to spread some joy, to spread some smile. So we're going to be reading the book throughout the year to kind of share the exciting things with you. So next week, we're going to pick up on chapter 3. And then you get to meet, I want to say, some of my favorite characters in the series. Because let's be honest, we all need a talking cat to train us in life. Why not? So my friends, I hope you guys have an amazing Saturday. Enjoy. If you are in Texarkana and in the Texas area, stay cool, stay inside, go to the pool, don't burn. Anywhere else, enjoy your fabulous Saturday. We'll be picking it up again, hopefully Saturday morning again. Kind of pick up your day with some exciting things to do. Remember, it is Urban Fantasy Day all day, May 17. Go ahead and pick up some amazing books. UrbanFantasyAddict.com. Over 100 authors out there. Make sure to get your copy of Death's Intern for free, my friends. Don't miss out. And if you are enjoying listening to authors, I'll be back at 2 Central Time to talk about our next guest and Inside the Minds of Authors. So my friends, many blessings, many thank you. Hopefully you enjoyed the reading. Hopefully I did well and didn't butcher my book too much. And I hope to see you guys again next week. Bye guys. Thank you.